If you truly want to know Hoi An, you need to leave the touristy areas and meet the people. We bring you along on 3 very different tours. We wake up at the crack of dawn to meet several different vendors who we will never forget. We take a cooking class, which includes a tour to an organic herb garden, shopping at the local market, and cooking several local Vietnamese recipes. Finally, we learn about the history of the Champa Empire and taste a very special food of the Cham people during a visit to Nissan Sanctuary. We have prices for everything at the end, too. I'm Judy.
And I'm Kevin. Welcome back to Finding Gina Marie, where we share our lives as full-time travelers and the connections we make along the way. Our first tour is jam-packed and it ends at 9 a.m., but that means you're going to need to be a really early riser and you're going to have to go to bed early or just take a nap afterwards. We had to forego coffee on our first morning, but it was great because there's so much to see and it was well worth it.
Emily and her driver picked us up at 4:45 a.m. from our Airbnb to take us to a traditional local fishing village. This particular fish market is on the Day-Hai shoreline on Kua Dai Bay, and the bridge we're crossing was built in 2016, which means that until 8 years ago, this area was only accessible by boat.
This traditional fishing village was fascinating. Men return from the sea at dawn, and women do all the selling and negotiating along the shores. The primary buyers for the fish here are local markets, seafood vendors, and restaurants in nearby Hoi An.
Many hotels, restaurants, and resorts prioritize sourcing fresh seafood from local fishing communities to offer authentic and sustainable dining experiences for tourists. Sure, it's a trading place, but it's also a social hub. While the women are busy selling, the men are on the side streets and gathered at the local restaurants.
A short walk from the shoreline was a local fish sauce maker. These big blue bags you see are filled with salt that will be used to extract the moisture from the fish and prevent spoilage in order to foster fermentation.
Before salting though, anchovies or other small saltwater fish known for their umami flavor are washed and drained. Next, the fish are layered with salt and stored inside these covered protective spaces. Clear fish sauce, which is milder and has a more delicate taste, only needs to be fermented for 1 to 2 months. But darker fish sauce cures from 4 to 6 months to up to 2 years, and the longer it cures, the more it costs, in part due to evaporation, so there's less to sell.
For our next spot, we hopped in the car for a short drive to enjoy a local spot for pho, which included a chunk of beef blood. It actually wasn't bad when you got past the idea of it.
This is beef blood? It sounds grosser than it is.
Well, we've had blood sauces before, you know.
Maybe I've had a bite, but it actually just tastes beefy. If I didn't know what it was, I would maybe think it was tofu soaked in beef broth. So that's good to know.
I had a rice noodle soup, which includes some quail eggs and a crispy roasted rice cracker.
So this is the soup. This is the
noodle.
prawn noodle.
En route to the rice wine vendor, we passed through some rice paddies. The government owns the major fields, but they divide them up among families, who only have to pay $4 to $5 per year.
We talk about Mr. Doe's history with a landmine in our previous episode, so check that out if you missed it. It's linked in our description below.
Learning about how rice wine was made and all of its varieties was fascinating.
Being a fan of whiskey, I know a lot about whiskey distilling, so when Mr. Doe was explaining this process, it sounded so familiar. They basically use rice as the grain, and he said that they use the cheaper broken rice that doesn't get used as a food source, which makes sense. I mean, you're going to grind it up anyway for creating a mash for the actual rice wine. The distillation process is similar to whiskey. The unique part here is that the leftover grain gets fed to the pigs that you see.
Hello. Hello.
And then the pig dung is used as methane to power the stills, which gives you this fascinating nothing is wasted process. We see this a lot in Vietnam.
We had a chance to toast with the clear rice wine.
Oh no, it's from Judy.
In Vietnamese we say 1,
Một,
2,
hai,
3.
Ba.
Yo.
Yo.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Một,
Mo.
hai,
Hai.
ba,
Ba.
yo.
And we also tasted a couple of flavored wines.
Very good to sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That could be dangerous.
It's almost like a dessert wine at that point.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
good. My father used to drink blackberry
Brandy.
brandy.
Yeah.
I feel like this kind of
Similar.
reminds me of
Mhm.
that.
Ah.
Yeah, that's But my favorite was not the centipede flavored variety.
What is that? That's a centipede?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Want a centipede one, dude?
Oh my gosh. What would it taste like?
Centipedes.
Vô cái bàn cái
Fortunately, that's only for massage. We called this happy couple by the honorifics Chi and Eng, which are names for older women and men, regardless of their actual names. One of the things we enjoy about tours like this is that Chi and Eng get a small donation from our guide taken out of the cost of the tour for allowing us to visit their workshop, in this case also their home, and see and experience their handiwork firsthand. But we were pretty shocked at how labor intensive it is to make these mats. And when they're not making mats, they're working in the rice fields or on a farm to supplement their income.
Well, before they get started with this weaving process, they must harvest those seagrass or reeds. The reeds are split in half and need to dry for a week. You can see them here on the street, and they're just wrapped around the corner. And then they're cleaned, and some of them are dyed using flowers. Our guide, Emily, mentioned that the color doesn't run or bleed, and it's even safe for babies.
A mat the size you see here is for a single-sized bed and costs around $4 to $5 and takes about 4 hours to make, but that's after the harvesting, drying, and coloring. And the frame that they're using was built over 30 years ago.
When they're working together, Aang alternates his paddle either toward or away from him to open up a specific row. She wraps the reed around the rod and pushes through the strings that they have handmade as well.
How is it switching?
So when he flips it this way, it's one opening, and he flips it that way, it's another. So you got it.
I see. Okay. The bigger mats obviously take more time, but they're also harder to do alone because of the weight of the mat. We were still in the early stages of the weaving, but at some point the weavers will need to move to the middle of the project and maneuvering gets harder. It will take 13 hours. Especially when they're making a bigger mat.
Every piece is unique, and this couple doesn't worry too much about making mistakes in their color changes or patterns. They just look at every mat as having its own design. It's a great, refreshing, and positive way to look at creation.
From start to finish, it's a very tedious process, but we were so impressed by the work ethic of the Vietnamese people doing backbreaking work. And although they face competition from mass-produced products, high-quality, handmade products like theirs are still in demand.
Our last stop on this particular tour was just a short walk away, and it was the rice noodle makers. They rise about 3 a.m. every day and don't finish up until 6 p.m. They only take breaks for breakfast and lunch.
Chiang? Chiang.
And as with many Vietnamese processes, they're using every piece of raw material. The husks from the rice are used to fuel the ovens that heat the boiler that are used to make the rice noodles. Then the burned husks are mixed with cow dung and used as fertilizer to grow more rice.
There's a stone mill that they used to use to grind the rice into a powder to make rice milk. They have a machine for grinding now, but they did it manually for a very long time. The oven has a built-in boiler and they put a very fine cheesecloth mesh over the top. Then they add a scant label of rice milk on top of the cheesecloth, and the rice milk is the perfect thickness that it cooks on top of the cheesecloth. It's then covered with a lid for 20 to 30 seconds or so for the noodles to cook. She wets a bamboo reed, slides it under the crepe, and lifts it off of the cheesecloth. Wow. And then she puts the noodle on the drying rack.
This family makes about 70 to 80 kilograms of rice noodles every single day, but with special orders it can sometimes be as much as 100 kilos per day. That's as much as 220 pounds of noodles. People come from all over the village to buy these noodles, so they don't have to sell them at the market.
And then we get to try them. But first we need to slice them up. For more consistent noodles, there's a crank-style noodle cutter they use. But sometimes they just use a rocking motion with a knife.
We also tasted a rice cracker, which is similar to the noodle that they make, but is dried and then grilled. Often they add sesame seeds into the rice milk mixture for added flavor and texture. These special snacks, which our guide called the Kung Fu Cake, are made by taking a rice cracker and then a regular noodle and giving it a karate chop to create a sandwich. And then you cut them up so you can dip them into a sauce made of chili paste and garlic soy sauce with a splash of peanut oil.
What do you think?
Good, very
Yeah.
good.
I thought that was a really fun day. On one level, it was a curated experience. It's not as though we met or ran into these locals organically. But at the same time, I think that was okay. It was great to learn about their livelihood, how hard they worked, the hours that they kept.
Yeah, our guide had a great relationship with each of the people that we met, and that added to the level of detail that we got out of everything. I mean, there were stories behind all this. There was a history of the families. There was their connection to the community. And the sustainability of the whole process blew my mind.
They can't afford to have waste.
Right. They're not going to go out and buy propane tanks. They don't have to. Use the rice husks. Use the methane from the animal waste. This just makes so much sense. I really enjoyed getting to talk to the people, learning a few Vietnamese words that we kept screwing up, but we tried really hard to connect with them.
Our guide did a great job of continuing to reinforce each of those words along the way.
Practice again.
And we were done by 9 a.m.
Yeah, so actually the day felt like it was still ours, although I did think we got a nap in.
I don't know if we did, but it wasn't the most ambitious rest of the day.
It's true.
We've never taken any in-person cooking classes as adults, and Hoi An seemed like a perfect place to learn how to incorporate Vietnamese cuisine into our repertoire. Redbridge Cooking School came highly recommended to us by a local guide, and their deluxe tour gave us the opportunity to really be hands-on and have a very local experience. The tour was just the two of us and one other couple joining us from Luxembourg. One of our first stops was to tour the organic herb gardens, where we met up with some school children who also were learning about organic farming and planting their own seedlings. Our guide pointed out various fruits, vegetables, and herbs as we walked throughout the gardens. Our next stop was to the local wet market, where we bought various ingredients that we would be using in our recipes. We purchased a variety of herbs and vegetables and some pre-made sesame rice crackers that we would later roast on the grill. Then we arrived at the cooking school by van and the cooking began. Our recipes included Hanoi beef rice noodle soup, homemade rice noodles, grilled chicken and banana flour salad, lemongrass shrimp wrapped in banana leaves, clay pot fish with fresh dill, and a variety of sauces for each of these courses. Spoiler alert, we made so much food that it was absolutely impossible to eat it all.
The shrimp alone has a lot of flavor. And you dip it in this paste we made. Woo.
What do you think?
I think I'm full. This is a little hard. We've had so much food. It is unbelievable how much food we've had today.
It's quite tasty.
It is. It's delicious. And the broth is so savory. But I feel like this is 2 days of food we cooked.
Yeah, 2 days of food. Yeah, too much food.
Redbridge Cooking School has shorter classes if you aren't interested in this full, long experience that we had, which lasted about 6 hours. After our activity concluded and we were stuffed to the gills, Rather than take a van ride back to the ancient town, we were able to take a boat ride on the river, and that was a much more interesting experience for us to conclude our day. So overall, what did you think about the cooking class?
Personally, I don't need a cooking class to make my life complete, but I really enjoyed the process of learning how all the foods were prepared and cooked and the utensils they used, and even learning about, what they chose to pick out as the raw materials for these foods, which, I love that. I certainly thought that there was so much food. I felt a little bad that I couldn't eat everything that we cooked. And that's really tough for me. So the whole process was really wonderful. I love the environment. I love the place, Redbridge Cooking School. You're on the river. You've got poolside there if you want to hang out there. That was all incredibly pleasant. The people were great.
And for me, I really loved it. We haven't really cooked in Southeast Asia for the last 5 or 6 months, and it was really a fun activity for me, especially to be familiarized with some of the ingredients. When we first came to Vietnam a few months ago, I was intimidated by some of the ingredients in our foods. Now that we've had a chance to see them in action and understand what the different flavors are, and understanding a little bit that some of the ingredients aren't so scary, even if I don't know exactly what they are, just kind of opened up my palate to make me a little bit more ambitious to try new foods that we haven't had before and be okay with it.
Yeah, because the markets were intimidating to us when we first got to Vietnam. This definitely made the markets a little easier to navigate and figure out, oh, you're just grabbing that and you're grabbing that. We're going to use it this way. It makes a lot more sense.
I'd give it 2 thumbs up.
I gave the eating 2 thumbs up.
We had our favorite dishes, but overall, the food was really great.
It really was. Meet Win. He runs the 3 Coolest Neighborhoods tour we took in Saigon and some other tours in Hoi An. Win grew up near the Cham people who are indigenous to Vietnam and Cambodia. He encouraged us to learn more about the Champa Empire and take a ride with him to the My Son Sanctuary, which is about an hour from Hoi An.
So we got a 5:30 a.m. pickup, and that's so we can avoid the crowds here at My Son. And during the entire way, our guide gave us a very detailed explanation of understanding a little bit about the Champa Empire. And it definitely helps that we visited Angkor Wat in Cambodia so that we could kind of get a sense of how they're the same, how they're different. One of the things that we learned is that the Champa are more focused on maritime and trading. So even though it was around from the 2nd century to the 14th century, it's interesting that they were both powerful empires overlapping each other, but they weren't really in competition with one another because the Champa people weren't really interested in taking over agriculture or land, so they weren't trying to grow their empire. They were just trying to trade. We'll learn more. My Son Sanctuary is a UNESCO World Heritage Site built beginning in the 2nd century through the 14th centuries by the Champa Empire and was dedicated to the Hindu gods Shiva and Vishnu. It's where royal families of the Champa Kingdom celebrated religious ceremonies and put kings to rest.
It's situated in a peaceful valley surrounded by mountains, and there are approximately 70 structures within the sanctuary, but many have been damaged or destroyed over time due to warfare or the elements.
The site is divided into several main groups or clusters of temples, with each cluster representing a different period of Champa architecture and history. These temples showcase the Cham's advanced skills in brick construction, which have stumped modern researchers for hundreds of years.
These bricks are very special because they've been able to withstand the tropical climate for centuries.
This is old?
This is the old bricks.
Oh, wow.
This is the new bricks. And you can see some of the right here. This is cement.
Oh, right.
Right here. This is not made by Cham people. This is like cement is like kind of like 18th century, 19th.
Right, the mortar, yeah.
Mortar. So when the Polish they came here, keep it from collapsing. They use some of they make their own bricks, and they collect some of the like damaged brick from everywhere and put them all together.
Researchers believe the Cham people might have used some form of tree resin or other organic materials as binding agents, but the exact composition is still being studied.
This is enjoyed right here, but you don't really see what is the motor.
Yeah.
It's more like each brick, but it's becoming like a whole block together, and it's really kind of waterproof, and it's stop the moisture and water can come inside.
The original bricks are surprisingly light because they're made from clay, straw, and cow dung and heated to 850 degrees Celsius. The modern replacements have to be fired to a higher temperature and also are heavier.
There are intricate carvings on the walls that tell the stories of battles, love, and mythology, a glimpse into the ancient Champa civilization. And here you can see the remains of a thriving city center, with remnants of ancient towers and ceremonial halls. These areas of the building appear to be unfinished. However, these imperfections are deliberate because only the gods are supposed to be perfect. So these flaws were built in the temples on purpose.
Unfortunately, Misan Sanctuary was severely damaged by extensive, heavy, large-scale bombing raids by U.S. military forces designed to destroy enemy infrastructure and supply routes in around 1969. This was called carpet bombing. Significant damage occurred to non-military targets, including historical and cultural sites. Countless artworks, sculptures, and inscriptions of immense cultural and historical value were also lost forever.
Who are the Cham people and why are they important?
They are the descendants of the Champa Empire, which was a powerful kingdom that flourished in central and southern Vietnam from approximately the 2nd century AD until it was annexed by the Vietnamese in the 19th century. The famous Ba Lê well in Hoi An that provides the water necessary to make caldo noodles and white rose dumplings was built by the Cham people in the 10th century. Hoi An's history as a busy trading port is due in large part to the Cham people. With their advanced seafaring skills, they played a significant role in this exchange, contributing to the multicultural fabric of the city. But what happened to them? Their territory gradually got absorbed by the Vietnamese, but they've managed to continue to preserve their own language, history, and culture distinct from the Vietnamese.
So it's shaped like a ginger.
Oh, sure, ginger root.
Ginger is very easy to grow. When you put like a small branch of ginger on the ground, it's gonna grow into a new tree. So having the ginger cakes at a very special event of Champa is like growing the populations, having more people in the families. It's like a good blessings for, like I said, like at the wedding or any special events for the families. Okay,
Thank you.
It's like sticky rice powder and mixed with eggs and deep fried it, and then sugar and ginger on top.
It's really good.
I was gonna say it started off like a heavy dough donut, but it's too crispy for that. You know, but the
Oh, but I
density-
could get some ginger.
Having been to Angkor Wat, we were really excited to see Misan Sanctuary, and it didn't disappoint. It's certainly not as big, but there's so many cultural references there and so many things to learn. I really loved it. I thought it was a wonderful experience.
There's so much more that we could have shared about Misan Sanctuary, so if you're interested, you need to go and take a tour as well. We highly recommend See You in Vietnam tours, and we've got a link in the description below. We aren't sponsored, but we would love this small business to succeed.
All right, let's get into the prices. Our early morning Misan temples with coffee and a light breakfast tour cost 710,000 dong, or about $29 per person.
The Misan Sanctuary entrance ticket, which was a separate cost, was 150,000 dong per person, or $6 a piece.
The Red Bridge and High Cafe Cooking School Deluxe Tour was $58 per person.
And Billy's sunrise tour around Hoi An hidden places that we did with Emily cost $42 per person and included breakfast. Thank you for watching. If you're not already subscribed, please do that. And the best compliment you can give us is to share our videos with your friends and family.
And check out findingginaMarie.com where you can find articles and our community forum.
Until next time.
Until next time.